Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing our deep dive into this LSU football program, heading into spring practice, fall camp in the 2024 season. Last week, we took a look at the offensive line, a unit that I truly think will be one of the better units in the entire country in 2024. Now we're looking at the defensive line, a unit that, 6 months ago, I was saying this could be one of the better defensive lines that you see in all of the country. And I think a lot of LSU fans would probably agree with this take that it just did not live up to expectations. And you give Brian Kelly a lot of credit. Looking at this defensive line and the development that really did not take place in 2023 and saying, we're going to go out and make changes. You bring in Kevin Peoples to work with the edge rushers. You're bringing Bo Davis to work with that inside of that defensive line. Two coaches that have done a phenomenal job at their previous schools. Obviously, Bo Davis developing a ton of NFL talent on that Texas defensive line, and Kevin Peoples putting back-to-back edge rushers into the NFL at Missouri. If you're an LSU fan, you're excited about some of the young talent that you have coming through this LSU defensive line, but I think you're most excited about the coaching changes that Brian Kelly made heading into 2024. I want to talk a little bit about what we saw from this unit after going back and watching some film in 2023. And then more importantly, talk about what this unit is going to look like in the 2024 season. Really excited to dig in. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys in this LSU program, whether it's the transfer portal, whether it's high school recruiting updates, whether it's the coaching changes, has been a blast to talk about over the last couple of weeks. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, guys that you think are going to break out in 2024. If you think LSU should go into the transfer portal to address this position group, we have the offensive skill position coming up next week. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with what we saw in 2023. And that was, I think the best way to sum it up after watching back some of the film was kind of lack of difference makers. And you look at the overarching numbers, a 4.5 yards per carry allowed, that was 84th in the country. And a 7% sack rate, that was 45th in the country. And you asked me 6 months ago, heading into that 2023 year, where I think LSU would sit in those statistics. I would say top 20 for both, right? We were extremely excited about Mason Smith coming back from injury. Guys like Mekhi Wingo, Savion Jones, Iffy, Braden Swinson, and largely a lot of those guys just did not reach expectations in terms of what you were looking for in that 2024 year. Just the lack of difference makers up front, really hurt this LSU team. And I think what you're most excited about is bringing in Kevin Peoples, bringing in Bo Davis to try to get a little bit more development outside of that Mississippi State game in the SEC play. You didn't really see LSU take over any games up front. In fact, I would argue that oftentimes they were kind of a liability, just not getting after the passer, giving up way too much in the run game, not winning at the point of attack. The devoid of difference makers, I think, really hurt this LSU team in 2023. Now, the conversation that you're most excited about now is, what is this unit going to look like in 2024? And I want to start with the edge rusher position and talk about a guy that, you talk about Kevin Peoples in his first job coming into LSU, and many LSU fans who've been listening for the last couple of months know my take on this. You have a guy like Harold Perkins, who is arguably one of the best pure pass rushers in all of the country. He needs to be rushing the passer more often. And I get Harold Perkins is going to be good at whatever position you decide to play him, but when you have the ability to have a player that is that much of a difference maker getting after the passer, Harold Perkins only rushed the passer 163 times. Was on the field for almost 500 passing snaps. That's not nearly enough. He led the team in sacks, even though he was barely rushing the passer. So you have this guy in Harold Perkins Jr. that is kind of just sitting there, and you're dropping him back in coverage. And again, he's solid at what he does, but he's a true difference maker coming off the edge. The burst that he has off the line of scrimmage, the bend and flexibility he has working around tackles, that stuff is different. And you need to use him as a pass rusher because, again, when you look at some of the most important metrics on a defense, it's sacks, it's negative plays, it's pressure rate. Harold Perkins is going to improve all three of those if he's rushing the passer in 2024. So my first, and you really wish for this LSU team, is to get a guy like Harold Perkins rushing the passer more. Because, again, our biggest gripe with LSU in 2023 was they didn't have difference makers. Well, they got one on this roster. Now you got to use them and put them in a position to really impact the game and be a difference maker. Now, some of the other guys that I'm kind of excited about the progression, Braden Swinson, I thought was probably the most underrated player on this LSU team last year. This was a guy that had a 15% pass rush win rate, 15 plus quarterback hurries on the year, didn't play as much as I would have liked to see. He was probably outside of Harold Perkins when Harold Perkins was coming off the edge, probably in my mind, from watching some of the film back, probably the best pass rusher for this LSU program in 2023. Want to see him get some more opportunity. A guy like Savion Jones just really left a lot to be desired. And I think this is where you're hoping Kevin Peoples can come in and take a guy in Savion Jones who has all the traits to be an elite pass rusher and really get that out of him. And you have a guy like Deshaun Womack, who, again, probably should have been playing more in 2023. I'll say this about him. He's going to be good. You can tell the limited snaps that he got, he has a ton of juice coming off the edge. I would probably, when you take a look at what this edge rusher group could be, a guy like Deshaun Womack going into year 2, Harold Perkins going into year 3 coming off the edge, Braden Swinson, this is a group that I think can be really good in 2024. I think the talent is certainly there. Now I think it's about putting it on the field in 2024. Jackson Howard, also a name that I'm probably looking at. Now, you look at the interior. This is where, and I'm interested to hear what LSU fans are thinking. This is where I think they need some transfer portal additions. Because I look at this team, you lose Mason Smith, you lose Mekhi Wingo. When I look at the depth chart and who they have coming back, I'm not very excited about the depth that they have. I think they have some solid players, but I don't think, one, there's not many difference makers up there. And two, when you're talking about 300-plus pound bodies, you want to make sure you can cycle those guys in and out, keeping them fresh 4 quarters, 12 games of a season. And I don't know if the depth is necessarily there heading into 2024. So I would think LSU is probably going to take a little evaluation of what they have in spring practice and then probably go into the portal during that second window and add maybe 1, 2, or 3 bodies on that defensive line just to kind of stimulate some competition and depth in that group. Now, looking at some of the guys that you're excited for, Jacobian Gilroy, a guy that I thought played pretty well, kind of spelling out Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith. Jalen Lee, really non-existent. Parrish Shand, kind of mixing him up, kind of playing edge, playing that 3-tech role. Again, maybe a solid depth piece, but certainly not a guy that you are wanting to go into SEC play, relying on him to be the guy in the middle. And so you look at LSU and saying, where are we going in terms of our starting guys on the inside? One, JUCO transfer Sean Washington, who transferred from Georgia to a JUCO school and then to LSU heading into 2024. He's a guy that I know LSU was extremely excited to get out of that JUCO ranks. He's a guy that I think could be a playmaker for LSU in 2024. And then Dominic McKinley, the 5-star coming in. He's not going to be in till the summer session, so that kind of hurts the development a little bit. But you go back and look at the film. We talked about Dominic McKinney committed to LSU New Year's Eve. This is a guy that is probably going to come in and play early. And it looks like, from the looks of it, he's going to be a guy that needs to play early for this LSU program heading into 2024. I am very excited and interested to see if Bo Davis, when he gets his hands on some of these guys and kind of evaluates what he has and saying, all right, do we need to go into the portal and kind of add some guys? Because right now what I'm looking at is Sean Washington, Dominic McKinley, 2 guys that you're going to have to rely on a lot in 2024. And that, I think those guys could be good playmakers. But my question would be, do you want to rely on a JUCO transfer and a true freshman to go into SEC play and being like, you guys need to play at a high level for this LSU program in 2024? And that's not me saying I don't think they can. It's more as me saying I don't know if LSU wants to be in a position where they have to rely on guys like that to be playmakers for this defense year 1 within the program. And so that's kind of where I sit on this defensive line. I think, again, the most exciting aspect for this LSU team is you're bringing in 2 coaches that have proven to get the best out of the talent, right? Bo Davis at Texas, Kevin Peoples at Missouri did a phenomenal job developing players. And we've kind of said it all along. LSU has the talent. This is not a roster that the problem was not the personnel. Like, this is a talented team. You got to get the best out of them. And I think bringing in guys like Kevin Peoples and Bo Davis certainly going to help. This is a position group that I'm monitoring. I think LSU will go into the portal and look to add some names. I'm interested to see who emerges in the portal and then who winds up at LSU. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, we'll got the offensive skill position coming up next week. Really excited to get into that group. Appreciate all the support you guys have shown. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.